Once again, cognitive science became caught up in the political pressures of the Cold War. The Department of Defense, through its research agency, ARPA, offered to fund the whole of the new discipline of artificial intelligence. In return, the scientists' work would be used to build intelligent weapons. The source of this funding was kept very quiet. The scientists were embarrassed. They didn't want the public to find out what their real job was.
You have to remember that ARPA's funding of artificial intelligence was for military purposes, but many of the people in that community come from liberal intellectual institutions. They particularly are not interested in military objectives. And so ARPA has always been very good at being able to marshal those forces and to trick them or lead them or move them in directions that have significant military benefits. It had an explicit goal of transitioning this technology into the military-industrial complex.
How do you trick these researchers, these scientists?
You lead them in directions that are useful militarily without explicitly asking them to think about the applications. So we'd say to them, let's work on TV image processing. And they would get results that would be applicable to processing of imagery for military purposes.
Slow. Pitch. Ready. Execute.
During the 1970s, a completely new type of weapon was developed in America. Intelligent missiles with memories that could be programmed. The most famous was the cruise missile, which had a picture of its target stored in its memory. These weapons were a direct product of the science of artificial intelligence. They fundamentally altered the balance of power in the Cold War. In return, artificial intelligence became a powerful science. The idea that human beings and computers were identical came to dominate not just scientific thinking, but popular culture too.
I'd like to grab inside your head for a minute and haul it over here and down here for a minute, where I've got some friends gathered at something called the Cyber.
Breathlessly enthusiastic television programs were made. They portrayed the artificial intelligence scientists as heroic figures.
People often ask if there will ever be machines that think. Well, we ourselves are machines that think by using great computers in our brains. And someday we will know enough to build machines that do such things and more.
No mention was made of the fact that Marvin Minsky had already built a thinking machine. His work had helped to create the memory of the cruise missile.
One of the most interesting things about the history of artificial intelligence is that the public was engaged in a kind of gee whiz perception of artificial intelligence as the quest for a thinking machine, when in fact what was really happening behind the scenes and out of the view of the public was this development of very dangerous, really revolutionary weapon systems that had the potential for changing the nature of war. And it was that was the primary focus of the funding agency that was providing almost all the money for artificial intelligence research. And this was almost never mentioned in the general press coverage of this particular field.